Unveiling Shadows of the Wasteland. A glimpse into a perilous prehistory, Shadows of the Wasteland beckons us into a world long extinct. It is a prehistoric epoch, raw and unforgiving. Here survival is not a choice, it is the only imperative. The narrative plunges viewers into an era where every rustle in the undergrowth could signify doom. This screenplay promises an unflinching look at life on the edge of existence. The land itself is a character, ancient and indifferent to the struggles played out upon its surface. We are invited to witness a primal drama, a story etched in the very fabric of a forgotten time, where the stakes are absolute and the environment is an ever-present threat. The setting is a desolate wasteland. Jagged rocks pierce the barren earth. This stark expanse is flanked by thick, imposing forests. These arboreal giants loom on either side, their depths concealing unknown dangers and scarce resources. The contrast is striking, the open vulnerability of the wastes against the shadowy menace of the woods. Mystical, glowing vines snake through these forests, adding a surreal, ethereal touch to the brutal landscape. They pulse with a faint, otherworldly light, hinting at a magic or ancient power that permeates this primeval world, a silent observer to the unfolding drama of life and death. This is not merely a backdrop, it is an active participant in the tale. A unique visual tapestry defines this prehistoric vision. The world is rendered in a stained glass style. Imagine vibrant colours, deep greens, blues and reds, fracturing the light, casting the environment and its inhabitants in kaleidoscopic hues. This artistic choice elevates the narrative beyond simple realism. It imbues the brutal struggle with a strange, almost reverent beauty. Each frame becomes a pane of an ancient cathedral window, depicting scenes of hunt, loss and fragile hope. The glowing vines complement this, their luminescence weaving through the fractured light, enhancing the mystical quality of this dangerous paradise. This visual approach promises a cinematic experience unlike any other. This stark, yet beautifully rendered world sets the stage for a story of profound survival. The screenplay does not shy away from the harsh realities. It is a tale of instinct, of the desperate need to endure against overwhelming odds. The prehistoric setting is more than just a location. It is the crucible in which the characters are forged. The stained glass visuals and glowing vines add layers of meaning. They suggest that even in the harshest of realities, there can be a strange beauty, a touch of the mystical. This is the foundation upon which Shadows of the Wasteland builds its compelling narrative, preparing us for a journey into the very heart of primal existence. The emotional landscape of Shadows of the Wasteland is as stark and varied as its physical one. Tension is a constant companion. It coils in the silence of the hunt, in the rustling leaves of the ominous forest. Every shadow could conceal a predator. Every distant cry could signal disaster. The screenplay masterfully builds this suspense, ensuring the audience remains on edge, deeply invested in the character's precarious existence. This is not a gentle world. It is a place where peace is a fleeting illusion, easily shattered by the savage realities of prehistoric life. The narrative thrives on this underlying current of unease, making every moment of calm feel fragile and threatened. Tragedy lies at the heart of this story. It is an unavoidable consequence of life in such a brutal epoch. The screenplay does not flinch from depicting loss in its rawest form. It promises moments that will tear at the viewer's heart, showing the devastating impact of violence and the fragility of life. The emotional core is steeped in sorrow, in the mournful cries that echo through the wasteland. This tragic element is essential, grounding the adventure in a painful reality. It reminds us that survival often comes at a terrible cost. The weight of this grief will shape the characters, driving them to acts of desperation and perhaps to unexpected strengths. Vengeance, too, finds its place in this emotional symphony. When loss is inflicted, the primal urge for retribution can be overwhelming. The script explores this powerful, destructive emotion. It examines how grief can curdle into rage, pushing characters beyond their limits. This thirst for vengeance will fuel some of the story's most intense confrontations. It is a dark path, fraught with peril, but one that feels terrifyingly understandable in the face of unbearable suffering. The stained glass visuals, particularly the use of stark reds and blacks, will likely amplify these moments of fury, painting the screen with the colours of rage and bloodshed. Yet amidst the pervasive tension, tragedy and vengeful fury, a glimmer of resilience endures. This is perhaps the most crucial emotional thread. Even when faced with unimaginable loss, the instinct to survive, to protect what little remains, persists. The screenplay promises to showcase the incredible strength of the will to live. This resilience is not about forgetting the pain, but about carrying it forward, about finding a reason to continue when all seems lost. The mystical glowing vines, with their subtle shifts in colour and intensity, may come to symbolize this enduring life force, a quiet testament to hope in a world consumed by shadows. At the center of this prehistoric saga is an unconventional family unit. We meet Dasa, a human hunter, his face etched with determination. He is a provider, a protector, driven by the primal need to ensure the survival of his loved ones. His spear is an extension of his will, a tool against the harsh wilderness. Alongside him is Maya, his mate, whose concern for their young is a palpable force. Her emotional strength will be tested severely. Their bond is one of necessity, but also of a deeper connection forged in the daily struggle for existence. They represent humanity's nascent efforts to carve out a space in a world ruled by giants. Then there is Dole, a formidable Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is no mere beast. Dole is a mother, fierce and protective. Her eyes gleam with a predatory focus, yet her actions often reveal a maternal instinct that transcends species. She hunts alongside Dasa, a silent partner in their shared quest for sustenance. This alliance between human and dinosaur is extraordinary, a testament to the strange accommodations life can make in extreme circumstances. Dole has her own young 3 T-Rex babies who are as vulnerable as Dasa and Maya's own child. This mixed species family unit is the emotional anchor of the story, unique and compelling. Their collective existence is a delicate balance. Dasa and Dole work in tandem, their skills complementing each other in the hunt. They share the responsibility of providing food for their intermingled offspring, 1 human baby, 3 juvenile T-Rexes. The screenplay introduces them as a functioning, if unusual, family. The little ones, human and dinosaur alike, play under the watchful eyes of their guardians, chasing glowing insects in the eerie twilight. This initial portrayal establishes a baseline of fragile normalcy, a brief period of relative peace before the shadows of the wasteland lengthen and threaten to engulf them all. Their relationships are a prelude, setting the stage for unimaginable triumphs. The bonds that tie this disparate group are about to be catastrophically tested. The narrative is poised to explore the depths of their loyalty, their grief, and their capacity for both savage fury and profound tenderness. Their interdependence is their greatest strength, yet it also makes them incredibly vulnerable. The loss of any member, particularly the young, will send shockwaves through this fragile coalition. Shadows of the Wasteland uses these characters, Disa, Maya, Dole, and their innocent offspring, to explore universal themes of love, loss, and the ferocious will to protect one's own, even in a world designed to break them. Their journey is the heart of this prehistoric tale. The forest beckoned. It was a realm of vibrant, shifting colours. Deep greens dominated, lush and ancient. Bold blues streaked through the canopy above. Shafts of crimson light pierced the dense foliage. This was no ordinary woodland. Every leaf, every branch seemed crafted from stained glass. The light fractured, creating kaleidoscopic patterns on the forest floor. Mystical vines coiled around tree trunks. They pulsed with a faint, ethereal luminescence, a silent energy. Dasa, the man, and Dole, the T-Rex, stepped into this living cathedral of light and shadow. Their hunt had begun. The air hummed with unseen life. Leaves rustled underfoot, a soft counterpoint to their cautious steps. Twigs snapped with startling clarity in the charged silence. Distant bird calls echoed, sharp and melodic. These were the natural sounds of this primeval world. Beneath them, a fainter sound persisted. It was a low hum, almost imperceptible. This was the song of the glowing vines, a subtle thrum of mystical energy. It created an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Every sound was a signal, a warning or an invitation. Dasa and Dole listened intently, their senses honed. Dasa moved with a hunter's grace. His grip on the spear was firm. His face, illuminated by the fractured light, showed grim determination. He was a provider. He was a protector. Dole, massive and powerful, moved with surprising stealth. Her immense form blended with the shifting shadows. Her golden eyes, flecked with predatory light, scanned the undergrowth. She was a mother. She was a force of nature. Though vastly different, man and beast shared a common purpose. They moved as one, a silent pact forged in the crucible of survival. This forest was a paradox. It offered sustenance. It promised life. Small creatures darted through the ferns, potential food for the hungry. Yet it also concealed untold dangers. Every shadow could hide a threat. The vibrant beauty of the stained glass light could not mask the peril. The glowing vines, while mystical, cast an eerie ambience. This was a place of life and death, intricately woven together. Dasa and Dole understood this delicate balance. Their mission was to claim life, to provide, and to return safely from the verdant labyrinth. The tension was a palpable thing. Dasa's eyes, sharp and focused, scanned every detail. He sought the faintest sign of movement. His spear felt like an extension of his arm. It was his tool, his weapon, his means of ensuring his family ate. He paused, listening, his head tilted. He saw Dole watching him, her massive head still. He whispered, his voice barely disturbing the air, "There, Dole, move slowly." His words were soft, yet carried an undeniable urgency. We need food for the little ones. The thought of the vulnerable young human and saurian fueled his every action. Their survival depended on this hunt. Dole responded not with words, but with an almost imperceptible shift in her stance. Her body tensed. A low growl rumbled deep in her chest, a sound of pure, primal focus. Her intent was unmistakable. She understood Dasa's quiet command. Her senses, far keener than any human's, were already locked onto their quarry. The glowing vine seemed to pulse in sympathy with her heightened awareness. She was a creature of instinct, a perfectly honed predator. Her predatory focus was a terrifying, awesome sight. The forest held its breath around her. Together they moved. Their progress was a masterpiece of stealth and coordination. Dasa, agile and light, used the dense undergrowth for cover. Dole, despite her size, mirrored his caution. Her heavy footfalls were surprisingly muffled on the soft earth. They were a study in contrasts, yet their movements were perfectly synchronized. It was a silent ballet of hunter and predator. No further words were needed. Years of shared hunts, of mutual reliance, had forged this unspoken understanding. They anticipated each other's actions, a seamless team in this deadly game. Then they saw it. A flash of movement through the ferns. A gallimimus, small and swift, darted into a sun-dappled clearing. The herbivore was skittish, its head bobbing nervously as it searched for edible roots. Its slender form was a fleeting target. The tension ratcheted higher. This was their chance. The stained glass light painted the Gallimimus in hues of amber and green. It was unaware of the danger lurking just meters away. Darcer and Dole froze, their muscles coiled, ready to strike. The moment was almost upon them. The air grew still. Only the faint hum of the mystical vines could be heard. Darcer and Dole edged closer. Each step was measured, deliberate. The Gallimimus continued its foraging, oblivious. The stained glass light seemed to intensify, sharpening the edges of every leaf, every shadow. Darcer could feel his heart pounding against his ribs. Dole remained a statue of coiled power beside him. This was the critical juncture. One wrong move, one careless sound, and their prey would vanish. The culmination of their silent stalk was at hand, demanding absolute precision. Darcer raised his spear. The smooth wood felt familiar in his grip. He took a slow, steadying breath. His eyes never left the Gallimimus. He calculated the distance, the angle. The mystical vines cast dancing patterns of light across his arm. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to this single point of focus. Then, with a powerful surge of his shoulder, he threw. The spear flew true, a glinting streak through the dappled light. It cut through the air, a whisper of impending death. The stained glass patterns seemed to warp around its trajectory. Before the spear even found its mark, Dole exploded into motion. She was a blur of scales and muscle. A guttural roar ripped from her throat, a sound of pure, unadulterated power. It was a triumphant, terrifying sound. She covered the distance to the startled Gallimimus in two massive bounds. Her jaws, lined with dagger-like teeth, snapped shut with incredible force. The impact was brutal, decisive. The small herbivore had no chance. The stained glass forest briefly flashed with vibrant reds as the hunt reached its violent conclusion. The Gallimimus fell, its brief struggle silenced. The spear protruded from its flank. Dole stood over her kill, chest heaving. The tension that had filled the clearing moments before vanished. It was replaced by the stark reality of death. The vibrant colours of the forest seemed to settle, the mystical vines pulsing a little slower. The hunt was over. Food was secured. Darcer slowly approached, his spear already in mind for retrieval. The air still echoed with the fading reverberations of Dole's roar, a definitive statement of their success. Darcer reached the fallen Gallimimus. Dole stepped back slightly, allowing him access. He retrieved his spear, wiping it clean on the broad leaves nearby. There was no celebration, only a quiet acknowledgement of necessity. The task was not yet complete. They had made the kill. Now they had to bring it home. Dole nudged the carcass with her massive snout, a silent question. Darcer nodded. Together, they began the arduous task of securing their prize. The stained glass light filtered down, casting long shadows as they worked. The Gallimimus was not large, but it was a significant burden. Darcer fashioned a crude harness from tough vines. Dole, with her immense strength, took the brunt of the weight. She gripped a portion of the prey gently in her jaws. Darcer pulled alongside her, guiding their path. They moved slowly, deliberately back through the verdant labyrinth. Each step was a testament to their shared effort. The forest, once a place of tense anticipation, now felt like a passage they needed to traverse with their hard-won bounty. Their teamwork was seamless, born of necessity. Their thoughts turned to the camp. Maya would be waiting. The little ones, Darcer's child and Dole's 3 offspring, would be hungry. This successful hunt meant survival for another period. It meant life. The image of their family, their mixed species unit, propelled them forward. The weight of the carcass was a physical manifestation of their responsibility. The mystical vines seemed to light their path, their gentle glow a subtle guide. The forest, though still dangerous, felt momentarily benign in the wake of their success. This hunt did more than just provide food. It reinforced the extraordinary bond between Dasa and Dole. Man and T-Rex, predator and provider, united by a common goal. Their teamwork was a testament to their mutual reliance. In this harsh prehistoric world, such alliances were rare, precious. Each successful hunt, each shared meal strengthened this connection. As they emerged from the stained glass forest, dragging their kill, their bond was palpable. They had faced the wilderness together and triumphed. For now, their family was safe. The stained glass forest receded behind them. Its vibrant hues gave way to a stark, muted palette. Dasa, Maya and Dole, with their young, emerged into a different realm. This was the Wasteland. It stretched before them, vast and unforgiving. The transition was jarring. The lush, albeit dangerous, embrace of the forest was replaced by an exposed vulnerability. Here, there were few places to hide. The air itself felt thinner, colder. This new sanctuary offered little comfort, only a temporary reprieve under an indifferent sky, a pause in their endless journey for survival. Jagged rocks clawed at the pale moonlight. The earth was barren, cracked and dusty. It spoke of ancient droughts and relentless winds. On either side, the thick forests loomed like colossal dark walls. Their edges shimmered faintly. This was the work of the mystical, glowing vines. They snaked along the perimeter of the trees, their light casting an eerie, unsettling glow upon the wasteland's border. This was not the vibrant pulse of the deep forest vines. This was a more subdued, watchful luminescence. The contrast between the open desolation and the dense, mysterious woods was profound, a constant reminder of their precarious position. The family sought a modicum of shelter near a cluster of these jagged rocks. Dasa gathered sparse, dry brush. Soon a small fire crackled to life. Its light pushed back the immediate darkness, a tiny beacon of warmth in the immense cold. Maya huddled close, her arm around their child. Dole, the massive T-Rex, settled her bulk nearby, her immense form a protective barrier against the unseen. They were a small island of life in a sea of desolation. The firelight flickered across their weary faces, painting them in shifting shades of orange and red, a stark contrast to the cool blues of the moonlit waste. The babies, one human and three tiny T-Rexes, seemed oblivious to the harshness of their surroundings. Their energy for now was boundless. They began to play near the fire's edge, their small forms darting in and out of the shadows. Their attention was soon captured by something new. Tiny, glowing insects, no bigger than a thumb, flitted through the air. These creatures seemed to emanate the same mystical light as the distant vine. The babies, captivated, began to chase them. Their soft giggles a fragile sound against the backdrop of the silent, waiting wasteland. This innocent play was a momentary distraction from the ever-present threat. The crackle of the small fire was a comforting sound. It was joined by the soft, innocent giggles of the babies as they pursued the glowing insects. These were sounds of temporary peace, of domesticity in an untamed world. Yet the wasteland offered its own more sinister symphony. A chill wind howled across the barren plains, a mournful, lonely sound. It whispered through the jagged rocks, carrying with it the scent of dust and distant, unknown perils. Far off, the cry of some nocturnal creature echoed, a sharp reminder that they were not alone in this vast emptiness, that danger was always near. Adding to the unsettling chorus was the low, persistent hum from the forest edges. The mystical, glowing vines, though distant, emanated this subtle vibration. It was a sound that seemed to bypass the ears and resonate deep within the chest. It was neither overtly threatening nor entirely benign. Instead, it contributed to a pervasive sense of unease, a feeling that ancient unseen forces were at play. The vines pulsed with their ethereal light, their glow waxing and waning like a slow breath, watching, waiting. This constant, almost subliminal hum was an integral part of the wasteland's unsettling atmosphere. Maya watched the babies, her brow furrowed with concern. The glowing insects were leading them further from the firelight, closer to the dark maw of the forest. Her maternal instincts were on high alert. She turned to Dasa, her voice a worried whisper that barely carried above the wind. "The babies are wandering too far, Dasa," she urged, her gaze fixed on the tiny, retreating figures. "Call them back." Her fear was a palpable thing, a mother's intuition sensing the invisible threads of danger that crisscrossed this desolate landscape, a premonition of what might lurk just beyond their sight. Dasa, weary from the hunt and the journey, placed a reassuring hand on Maya's arm. He tried to soothe her fears, perhaps his own as well. "They're just playing, Maya," he said, his voice low and tired. He glanced towards Dole, who lay near the fire, a massive, scaly guardian. "Dole's here. We're safe." His words were meant to comfort, to project an aura of security. Yet in the vast, indifferent wasteland under the pale, watchful moon, safety was a fragile illusion. His reassurance hung in the air, a stark contrast to the growing sense of foreboding that the scene carefully cultivated. The babies, lost in their innocent game, paid no heed to the subtle anxieties of their parents. Their world for now was filled with delight. "Catch the glow bug!" One of the tiny T-Rexes seemed to chirp, its small growl more playful than fierce. The glowing insects danced before them, their light mesmerizing. These were not ordinary fireflies. They pulsed with the same mystical energy as the great vines, tiny sparks of the forest's strange magic. Each flicker and dart was an invitation, a challenge to their youthful exuberance, drawing them ever onward, away from the relative safety of the fire. Their playful chase led them, step by tiny step, towards the ominous edge of the forest. The boundary was marked by the eerie, pulsing glow of the mystical vines. The light from these vines, combined with the allure of the insects, painted the babies in shifting, ethereal patterns. Their small forms were clearly illuminated, yet this visibility offered no protection. Instead, it made them stand out against the darkness, small beacons of life unknowingly approaching a threshold of great danger. The forest loomed, silent and watchful, its depths concealing unimaginable terrors from their innocent eyes. The camera's focus shifts, momentarily leaving the oblivious children. It lingers on Dasa and Maya. The day had been long, the hunt arduous. The constant vigilance required for survival in this world was exhausting. Dasa's reassurance to Maya seemed to drain the last of his alertness. His eyelids grew heavy. Maya, though still worried, leaned against him, seeking comfort and warmth. They began to drift into a restless, shallow sleep. The crackling fire, the distant howl of the wind, the eerie hum of the vines, these sounds became a lullaby of false peace, their parental guard slowly, unconsciously lowering. Dole, the mighty protector, was also succumbing to weariness. She curled her massive body protectively near the dwindling fire, a formidable barrier of scales and teeth. Her sheer presence had always been a deterrent, yet even her senses were dulled by fatigue. The soft giggles of the babies had faded slightly as they moved further away, and the gentle rhythm of the wasteland night lulled her. Crucially, in this moment of shared exhaustion, she did not register the baby's gradual departure from the fire's immediate vicinity. Her great head rested, her eyes closed, oblivious to their silent, creeping absence. Section 4, Restless Slumber, a precarious peace before the storm. A deceptive calm settled over the small camp. On the surface, all appeared tranquil. The fire burned low, its embers glowing like sleepy eyes. The adults, Dasa and Maya, were lost in their uneasy slumber. Dole, the giant guardian, lay still, a mountain of dormant power. Only the faint, rhythmic breathing of the sleepers disturbed the silence immediately around the fire. The wasteland itself seemed to hold its breath, cloaked in the pale, ghostly light of the moon. This quietude was a fragile veneer, stretched thin over a chasm of impending dread, a silence pregnant with unspeakable possibilities. The pale moonlight, unfiltered by clouds, cast long, distorted shadows across the barren ground. The jagged rocks, scattered throughout the wasteland, took on monstrous forms in the dim light. They seemed to lean in, like silent, ancient sentinels observing the vulnerable family. The wind, though softer now, still whispered secrets as it snaked through the rocks and scrub. Every subtle shift in the shadows, every rustle of dry vegetation seemed to hint at unseen movement. The environment was not passive. It was an active participant, its features contributing to the rising, unspoken terror. The undercurrent of unease was relentless. It thrummed beneath the surface of the apparent peace. The mystical, glowing vines at the distant forest edge pulsed with a more insistent rhythm now. Their light, once just an eerie backdrop, now seemed like a beacon, perhaps a warning, or worse, an allure to hidden dangers. The babies, drawn by the glowing insects, were now completely out of sight. They had vanished into the periphery, near that glowing, ominous threshold between the open waste and the shadowed depths of the ancient forest. Their absence was a silent scream in the quiet night. The family was utterly vulnerable. Their precarious peace was balanced on a knife's edge. The parents slept, trusting in their formidable dinosaur ally. The ally, in turn, was also lost to exhaustion. The innocence of the young had led them into the very jaws of potential danger. Every element of the scene, the desolate setting, the eerie lights, the unsettling sounds, the absence of the children, converged to create an almost unbearable suspense. The stage was meticulously set. The deceptive calm was merely the deep breath before the plunge. The storm was about to break. Section 1. The emergence of shadow predators from the stained glass dark. Deep within the forest, shadows stirred. They were not the gentle shadows of twilight. These were deeper, colder, imbued with an ancient hunger. From this stained glass darkness, two forms began to resolve. They were Carnotaurus. Sleek, powerful bodies moved with a sinister grace. Their hides were a patchwork of dark, menacing hues, like obsidian shards embedded in a macabre mosaic. Jagged, angular lines defined their predatory silhouettes against the faint, mystical glow filtering from the deeper woods. Horns, sharp and cruel, jutted above their eyes, and those eyes, they glowed with a malevolent red light piercing the gloom like smouldering embers. The air, moments before filled with the innocent sounds of play, suddenly grew deathly still. The gentle hum of the distant vines seemed to falter, replaced by a palpable dread. The babies, Dasa's child and Dole's three small offspring, froze mid-chase. The glowing insects they had pursued now seemed like treacherous lures. Their tiny heads snapped towards the forest edge. They saw the shifting darkness. They sensed the approaching doom. Instinct, raw and primal, screamed a warning through their small bodies. The playful light in their eyes was extinguished, replaced by a rapidly dawning terror. Then the silence shattered. A high-pitched scream, then another, tore through the night. The babies, paralyzed by fear for a crucial instant, finally broke. They scattered, their tiny legs churning desperately. But the Carnotaurus was swift. They exploded from the tree line, a blur of destructive motion. Their charge was a terrifying spectacle of predatory efficiency. The stained glass style rendered their attack in sharp, brutal strokes of colour, the reds of their eyes streaking through the darkness like bolts of bloody lightning. The forest itself seemed to recoil from their ferocity. The deceptive calm of the wasteland was irrevocably broken. The nightmare had begun. There was no warning for the sleeping adults, no time to prepare. The attack was sudden, brutal and absolute. The mystical glowing vines along the forest edge seemed to pulse with a frantic, agitated light, their ethereal glow now tinged with an ominous crimson. The predators were among the prey. The night, which had promised a restless peace, now offered only the chilling certainty of violence. The shadows had claimed the edge of their fragile sanctuary. Section 2, A Symphony of Screams, the first devastating losses. The first casualty was instant, a horrifying punctuation to the Carnotaurus's charge. One of the predators, a monstrous engine of destruction, lunged with terrifying speed. Its powerful jaws snapped shut. Dasa's child, the small human baby who had been chasing glowbugs with such delight, was caught. A single piercing cry, abruptly cut short, echoed across the wasteland. The sound was a sliver of ice through the hearts of the yet unaware parents. The vibrant life, so full of promise moments before, was extinguished with sickening finality. There was no struggle, only a devastating, silent finality. The stained glass visuals captured the horror with stark, artistic brutality. As the Carnotaurus struck, the world seemed to fracture into shards of deep crimson and stark black. These colours swirled around the predator, a visual representation of the bloodshed and the encroaching darkness. The mystical vines pulsed erratically, their light flaring bright red before dimming, as if recoiling from the sheer violence. The other babies shrieked, their terror amplified by the sudden, brutal loss of their playmate. The night was now filled with their desperate cries, a symphony of pure, unadulterated fear. The carnage continued with merciless speed. The second Carnotaurus, moving with terrifying coordination, targeted Dole's offspring. Two of the small T-Rex babies, clumsy in their panic, were unable to evade the onslaught. They were dragged down, their small bodies no match for the predator's overwhelming power. Their brief, terrified yelps were swallowed by the aggressive roars of the Carnotaurus and the sickening crunch of bone. Their forms, moments before vibrant and playful, lay still and lifeless on the barren earth, small sacrifices to the wasteland's insatiable cruelty. The air was thick with the sounds of slaughter. The triumphant roars of the Carnotaurus mingled with the terrified screams of the remaining baby. Snapping jaws echoed with gruesome clarity. The thud of small bodies hitting the unforgiving ground was a sickening percussion. Frantic, tiny footsteps drummed a desperate rhythm of attempted escape. Nature itself seemed to amplify the horror. Rustling foliage and snapping branches marked the predator's relentless movements. The eerie hum from the glowing vines intensified, morphing into a distressed, discordant thrum, a lament for the fallen innocents. Section 3. A Desperate Flight. The Lone Survivor's Plea. Only one of Dole's babies now remained. Terror gave its tiny legs an unnatural speed. It fled, a small, desperate silhouette against the moonlit wasteland. It scrambled over jagged rocks and tangled roots, its small body heaving with exertion and fear. It shrieked, a continuous, piercing cry for help. "Mama, help!" The plea was raw, instinctual, a desperate call to the mother it believed could save it from the encroaching nightmare. Its tiny voice, filled with an agony no young creature should ever know, finally sliced through the fog of sleep. that held the adults captive. Dasa was the first to stir. His eyes snapped open. The screams, inhuman and yet horrifyingly familiar, registered instantly. He sat bolt upright, his heart pounding with a sudden icy dread. "The babies!" he choked out, the words a horrified whisper. His mind, still grappling with the remnants of sleep, struggled to comprehend the cacophony of terror that had erupted. He looked wildly around the dim firelight. The playing area was empty. The awful sounds were coming from the direction of the forest, from the darkness that lay just beyond their camp. Maya awoke to Dasa's cry, her eyes wide with a dawning, unspeakable fear. The screams of the babies, particularly the desperate plea from Amar, pierced her like 1,000 needles. She scrambled to her feet, her face a mask of disbelief and burgeoning panic. "No!" she screamed, her voice cracking with anguish. "My child!" Her maternal instinct, a powerful, undeniable force, surged through her. The thought of her baby, of any of the babies in danger, was an unbearable torment. She was ready to run, to face whatever horror awaited. Dole, the colossal T-Rex, erupted from her slumber. The desperate cries of her offspring, the scent of blood and unfamiliar predators in the air, triggered an immediate, violent reaction. A low, guttural growl rumbled from deep within her chest, a sound that promised terrible retribution. Her massive head lifted. Her golden eyes, now blazing with fury, scanned the darkness. The intensified hum of the glowing vines seemed to resonate with her rising rage, their light pulsing in time with the furious beat of her ancient heart. The protector was awake, and she was furious. Section 4. The Pursuit and the Unthinkable Hope. Crushed anew. Dasa and Dole moved as one, a blur of desperate speed. Dasa snatched his spear, his knuckles white as he gripped the familiar wood. Dole, a mountain of enraged muscle, thundered towards the source of the cries. Her every footfall shook the barren earth. Maya followed, stumbling, tears streaming down her face, her heart shattering with every step. They charged towards the forest edge, towards the sounds of unimaginable horror, driven by a primal need to protect, to save what might still be saved from the bloody chaos. The Carnotaurus, their initial bloody work complete with 3 of the young, spotted the escaping T-Rex baby. The small creature was a fleeting target, scrambling desperately towards the distant, dim light of the now abandoned campfire. Its tiny legs pumped furiously, but the predators were gaining. Their longer strides devoured the distance. Their horns, glinting malevolently in the pale moonlight, were like wicked scythes aimed at the terrified fugitive. The chase was a brutal, uneven contest, a desperate flight for life against relentless, savage pursuers. Hope for this last small one hung by the thinnest of threads. Just as Dole's third baby, the last of her trio, seemed poised to reach the relative safety of the approaching adults, disaster struck anew with sickening cruelty. The second Carnotaurus, momentarily obscured by a jagged outcrop of rock, lunged from the side. Its attack was swift, unexpected, and utterly devastating. But its target was not Dole's escaping baby. In a horrifying twist of fate, it was Dasa's other child, a second, younger infant, perhaps kept closer to Maya, unseen in the initial chaos, that was struck down. This final brutal blow extinguished the last of Dasa and Maya's hopes. The brief did indeed imply 2 of Dasa's children were lost. The stained glass world fractured again, this time into a maelstrom of deepest crimson and obsidian black. The light of the mystical vines flared violently, bathing the scene in an infernal glow. The loss was absolute, unbearable. Dasa had witnessed the unthinkable twice in mere moments. The brief hope that one of Dole's young might survive was now overshadowed by this fresh personal devastation. The Carnotaurus had not just killed, they had systematically annihilated the future of this fragile family, leaving a gaping wound of despair and rage. Section 5. The Onset of Fury, Parents Unleashed. A sound ripped from Dole's throat. It was not a roar of challenge, but a bellow of pure, unadulterated fury and profound anguish. It was the sound of a mother whose world had been shattered. Her massive form, moments before focused on rescue, now radiated an incandescent rage. She charged the nearest Carnotaurus, the one responsible for the latest atrocity, her immense jaws agape, ready to tear, to destroy. The ground trembled beneath her thunderous advance. The stained glass patterns of the world seemed to warp and swirl around her, reflecting her consuming wrath. Darsa, witnessing the brutal end of his second child, felt something snap within him. The horror, the grief, the sheer injustice of it all coalesced into a single burning point of rage. Tears streamed down his face, mingling with sweat and grime. But his eyes blazed with a cold, desperate fury. "For my babies!" he screamed, his voice raw with pain and vengeance. He lunged at the second Carnotaurus, his spear aimed true, driven by a grief so profound it transcended fear. He was no match for the beast's size, but his attack was filled with the desperate strength of a father pushed beyond endurance. Maya collapsed to her knees, her screams devolving into heartbroken sobs. "No, my child, they're all gone! They're all gone!" she wailed, the words torn from her soul. The sight of her losses, so sudden, so complete, was too much to bear. She could only watch, helpless, as Darsa and Dole threw themselves into a suicidal battle against the horned demons that had stolen everything from them. Her grief was a tangible presence, a heavy shroud that settled over the blood-soaked earth. The wasteland, moments before a place of deceptive calm, had transformed into a hellish arena. The air was thick with the scent of blood, and the cacophony of battle roars, screams, the thud of impacts, the tearing of flesh. The mystical glowing vines pulsed with an almost violent intensity, their light shifting from eerie blues and greens to furious reds and deep ominous purples. The heart-wrenching terror and devastating loss had now fully escalated, igniting a desperate, vengeful rage. The fight for survival had become a fight for retribution. A maelstrom of retribution Dole's unchained fury. The screenplay catapults the audience from abject horror into a vortex of raw, unadulterated fury. This is Act 4, The Battle and Vengeance. The transition is instantaneous. Dole, the T-Rex mother, witnesses the brutal demise of her young, and the scene ignites. Her grief does not manifest as paralysis. Instead, it transmutes into an explosive, terrifying rage. The screenplay describes her clash with the first Carnotaurus as a primal spectacle. This is not merely a fight between two prehistoric beasts. It is a mother's vengeance, a desperate, violent response to an unbearable loss, played out on a canvas of shattered light and elemental power. The emotional core of this moment is palpable, visceral. Dole's massive jaws, instruments of sustenance and gentle nudges for her babies, become weapons of devastating retribution. The screenplay details her clamping onto the Carnotaurus's neck, a death grip born of ultimate despair. Around them, the mystical glowing vines are no longer passive observers. They pulse wildly, their light shifting, intensifying, casting the combatants in a surreal, almost demonic glow. This visual element is crucial. It transforms the brutal fight into something more profound, a battle imbued with a strange, terrible magic. The stained glass style, always present, would fracture the light into sharp, dynamic shards, reflecting the chaos and violence of the encounter. The sound design in this segment is engineered for maximum impact. The screenplay calls for roaring, the snapping of bones, and the heavy thuds of colossal bodies. These sounds are not just background noise, they are an integral part of the emotional tapestry. Dole's roars in particular would be a symphony of anguish and fury, a sound that tears through the wasteland and resonates deep within the audience. The previously described howling wind seems to amplify, becoming a chorus to the carnage. The intensified hum of the glowing vines adds a layer of otherworldly tension, suggesting that even the mystical elements of this world are agitated by the unfolding tragedy and the subsequent explosion of rage. The battle is depicted as brutal, swift and decisive on Dole's part. There is no drawn-out struggle. Her fury lends her overwhelming strength. The screenplay emphasizes the raw power of a mother pushed beyond her limits. The Carnotaurus, a terrifying predator in its own right, is outmatched by the sheer force of Dole's vengeance. This segment serves to highlight the terrifying strength that can be born from profound loss. It is a stark reminder that even in a world ruled by primal instincts, the bonds of family, particularly motherhood, can unleash an almost supernatural power. Dole becomes an avatar of maternal rage, a force of nature itself. The Spear of Grief, Darsa's desperate vengeance. While Dole engages one Carnotaurus in a titanic struggle, Darsa confronts the other. His battle is one of stark contrast. He is a human, frail in comparison to these saurian behemoths, yet his grief is a fire that consumes him, lending him a desperate, reckless courage. The screenplay paints a harrowing picture. Darsa, his face contorted by an amalgam of sorrow and incandescent anger, driving his spear into the flank of the second Carnotaurus. This is not a calculated act of a seasoned hunter. It is the raw, unthinking lunge of a father who has witnessed the annihilation of his lineage, his every hope for the future. The spear, once a tool for provision, now becomes an instrument of desperate vengeance. Darsa's cry, "For my babies," as noted in the screenplay, is a raw outpouring of his soul. It's a declaration of love, of loss, and of an unquenchable desire to inflict pain upon those who caused his suffering. The tears streaming down his face are not tears of weakness, but of a pain so profound it fuels his every muscle. The stained glass visuals here would be particularly poignant. The sharp reds and blacks of the fight reflecting Darsa's internal hell, the fractured light mirroring his shattered heart, and the brutal reality of his actions. The fight is described as brutal. Blood splatters, rendered in the unique stained glass style, create sharp, visceral patterns of crimson and deep shadow. These visuals elevate the violence beyond mere gore. They transform it into a grotesque artwork, each splash of color a testament to the pain inflicted and endured. Darsa's attack, though fueled by immense emotional power, is likely a desperate, perhaps even suicidal, endeavor against such a foe. The screenplay implies he manages to wound the creature, a testament to his fury. But the focus is less on his martial prowess and more on the sheer emotional force driving him. This confrontation underscores the universality of parental grief and rage. Darsa, the human, and Dole, the T-Rex, are united in their devastating loss and their violent response. Darsa's actions are a poignant echo of Dole's own fury, albeit on a different scale. He fights not with massive jaws or claws, but with the only weapon he has, powered by the same primal instinct to avenge his stolen young. The scene highlights a tragic parity between species when faced with the ultimate bereavement, showcasing how loss can strip away all else, leaving only the burning need for retribution against the destroyers of life. Victory's bitter taste roars and ruin in the wasteland. Dole stands atop the lifeless Carnotaurus, a silhouette against the chaotic light of the mystical vines. She lets out a deafening roar, a mix of triumph and soul-shattering sorrow. The sounds of battle subside, replaced by Dole's roar and the howling wind. Darsa collapses beside the dead Carnotaurus, his hands bloodied, his body spent. Maya sobs, "They're gone. They're all gone. The victory is drenched in sorrow. The babies are gone, the family unit shattered. The triumph is hollow, a bitter taste in the mouth. The scene conveys profound devastation, not celebration. The immediate aftermath of the battle is one of stark, desolate quiet, punctuated only by sounds of grief. Dasa lies broken beside the fallen predator, his energy utterly depleted. Maya cradles the lifeless body of her child, highlighting the terrible finality of their loss. Dole succumbs to her sorrow, nudging her one remaining baby. The glowing vines dim, their light softening, reflecting the protagonist's fading rage. The victory over the Carnotaurus offers no comfort against the sharp edges of maternal agony. The stained glass patterns shift to cooler, muted tones, reflecting the shattered state of the family. The wasteland feels emptier, colder. Act 4 ends on the realization that vengeance is an inadequate response to profound loss. The scars are etched into their souls like dark lines in a tragic stained glass window. The fury of battle had bled away, leaving behind a profound silence. The wasteland lay still, shrouded in oppressive quiet. The moon, veiled by somber clouds, no longer illuminated the barren earth. The silence was heavy, suffocating, laden with unspoken sorrow. The wind whispered a gentle, mournful dirge, rustling through the sparse vegetation. The glowing vines cast a faint, somber light, their energy subdued. This profound stillness marked the beginning of Act 5, mourning through the night. The pace slows, inviting the audience to linger on the raw manifestations of grief. There are no more grand actions, only the crushing weight of what has happened. This act explores sorrow in its purest form under a dark, uncaring sky. Dole, the mighty Tyrannosaurus, lay beside her dead babies, racked with tremors of grief. Low, mournful cries rumbled from deep within her chest. She gently nuzzled the lifeless bodies of her offspring with unimaginable tenderness. Her one surviving baby huddled close against her enormous side, seeking solace. Dole's grief was primal, wordless, yet utterly comprehensible. Her low, mournful roars spoke a universal language of loss. The shaking of her massive frame, the gentle nuzzling of her dead young, painted a devastating portrait of maternal love shattered by tragedy. The Queen of the Wasteland was brought low by the simple, brutal fact of her bereavement. The scene emphasizes the depth of her maternal bond and the agony of its severance. The dull blue light of the vines cast her in shades of deep sorrow. Section 3. Whispers of Despair. Humanity confronts the void. Maya clung to Dasa, her body racked with sobs, seeking an anchor in her desolation. Dasa held her tightly, his own face etched with unbearable pain. He stroked Maya's hair, offering what little comfort he could muster. Maya's voice, when she finally spoke, was a mere whisper, fragile and laden with despair. "How do we go on, Dasa?" she breathed, her words almost lost in the mournful breeze. Dasa's reply was equally quiet, his voice hoarse with unshed tears and exhaustion. "We have to, for the one that's left." His words were a fragile thread of resolve in an ocean of despair. The scene acknowledges their shared fate with Dole, recognizing that life demands they protect what little remains. The night wore on, a slow, agonizing passage of time. The family, human and saurian, kept a somber vigil. There was no sleep, only the shared burden of grief. Dole's continued mourning, Maya's quiet weeping, and the tiny T-Rex survivor curled against its mother painted a portrait of profound loss. The alliance between Dasa, Maya and Dole had been forged in mutual need and the shared responsibility of protecting their young. Now, with most of that young decimated, their bond was violently shaken. Yet in this crucible of sorrow, a different kind of connection might emerge. Dasa's words, "for the one that's left," hinted at this. Their shared grief could either shatter their bond completely or temper it into something stronger. The night offered no easy answers, only the shared space of mourning under a sky that had witnessed too much. Survival? It is the raw, beating heart of Shadows of the Wasteland. This prehistoric epoch, so vividly rendered, offers no quarter. The environment itself is an antagonist. The stained glass forest, beautiful yet treacherous, and the barren wasteland, stark and unforgiving, are arenas of constant struggle. Life here is not a gentle unfolding, it is a relentless, brutal confrontation with mortality. The screenplay does not shy away from this truth. It immerses the viewer in a world where every sunrise is a victory, every meal a hard-won reprieve from the gnawing hunger that defines existence. This is the fundamental premise upon which the entire narrative is built. The cost of this unyielding will to survive is etched deeply into the narrative. It is measured not merely in physical exertion, in the wounds sustained during the hunt or battle, it is measured in the currency of souls. The characters endure losses that would shatter most. They witness horrors that carve permanent scars into their psyches. Survival, as depicted here, is a grim perseverance. It is the act of placing one foot in front of the other when every fibre of one's being screams for an end to the suffering. The narrative compellingly argues that the instinct to live can persist even when hope itself seems to have perished. This primal urge to endure transcends the boundaries of species. Dasa, the human, grapples with his grief, his actions driven by a complex mix of love, despair, and a deep-seated need to protect. Dole, the Tyrannosaurus, responds with a more instinctual yet no less profound drive. Her maternal fury, her sorrowful laments, and her ultimate decision to move forward are all manifestations of this same powerful force. Their improbable alliance, forged in the crucible of shared needs and dangers, becomes a testament to life's incredible tenacity, its ability to find common ground even in the most disparate of creatures when faced with annihilation. Ultimately, Shadows of the Wasteland frames survival not as a heroic choice made in a moment of glory. It is presented as an undeniable, almost terrifying imperative. It is the biological and spiritual engine that drives Dasa, Maya and Dole. It is the silent, thrumming pulse beneath the surface of their broken world, a world meticulously designed to crush them. The screenplay forces its audience to confront this stark reality, to witness the sheer, unadorned will to continue. This is not about triumph in a conventional sense. It is about the stubborn, almost defiant act of existing against all odds. The arrival of dawn in Scene 6 is not a sudden, joyous illumination. It is a slow, hesitant creep of light across a landscape still shrouded in the profound darkness of grief. The sun rises, casting its nascent golden glow, yet the shadows of the night's horrors linger, long and deep. This moment, however, signifies a crucial shift from the stasis of mourning to the tentative movement of continuation. The characters do not emerge unscathed or suddenly healed. Their pain is a palpable entity, yet they choose to move. This choice, made in the depths of sorrow, is the very essence of resilience as explored in the screenplay. Dasa and Maya embody this quiet, human determination. Their faces are etched with an enduring pain, a map of their recent devastating losses. Maya's tearful nod, her silent acquiescence to Dasa's hushed words, speaks volumes. We'll find a new home for them, Dasa states, his voice heavy but resolute. The them refers to the memory of their lost children, a motivation born from love that persists beyond death. Their clasped hands are a small, powerful symbol of their shared burden and their commitment to face the desolate future together. Their resilience is not a denial of their suffering, but an integration of it into their will to proceed. Dole, too, plays a pivotal role in this somber procession towards an unknown future. She and her surviving baby lead the way. Her massive form, once a symbol of terrifying rage, now projects a resolute, protective strength. The screenplay describes her soft roar as having a protective tone. This is the sound of a mother who, despite her own unimaginable grief, continues her most fundamental duty, to safeguard the life that remains. Her resilience is primal, instinctual, a silent vow etched in every deliberate step she takes away from the site of their tragedy and towards the vast, indifferent wasteland. The ending, therefore, is profoundly bittersweet. There is no miraculous erasure of pain, no easy comfort. The grief is a permanent passenger on their journey. Yet within this tableau of sorrow, the family unit, scarred, diminished, forever altered, finds the collective strength to continue. This is the screenplay's powerful statement on resilience. It is not about overcoming grief as if it were an obstacle, but about learning to carry its immense weight while still choosing the path of life. Their forward movement is a defiant act against the crushing finality of death, a testament to the enduring spirit. The unique stained glass visual style of Shadows of the Wasteland does more than just create a striking aesthetic. It imbues the entire narrative with a deeper symbolic resonance. Throughout the brutal hunts, the terrifying attacks and the heart-wrenching scenes of loss, this artistic choice casts the world in vibrant, fractured hues. It suggests that even within the harshest realities, there exists a strange, almost reverent beauty. The sharp lines and vivid colours transform scenes of primal struggle into something akin to ancient, tragic artworks, hinting at a spiritual layer beneath the surface of their physical ordeal, a grand, sorrowful pattern to their existence. Central to this symbolic tapestry are the mystical, glowing vines. They are not mere set dressing. They are an active, responsive element within the story's emotional ecosystem. Their colours shift and pulse in concert with the narrative's rhythm, the vibrant greens and blues of the hunt, the eerie, ominous light during moments of suspense, the furious reds and blacks that accompany the Carnotaurus attack and the ensuing battle, and the sombre, dull blue that reflects the depths of their mourning. This dynamic presence suggests a connection between the characters' inner states and the very land they inhabit, an almost sentient awareness within their environment. The final transformation of the glowing vines is particularly significant. As Dasa, Maya, Dole and the surviving baby move forward at dawn, the vines are described as shimmering with a faint green. This colour, so often associated with life, growth and renewal, offers a subtle, almost subliminal glimmer of hope. It is not an overt promise of a brighter future, but a delicate suggestion that even in a world so saturated with loss, the potential for new beginnings, however fragile, persists. The vines, which seem to guide their path, become a luminous thread, weaving through the desolation, connecting the pain of the past with the tentative possibility of what lies ahead. The screenplay concludes with a haunting, resonant image. The vast wasteland stretching before the survivors, the forest fading into the distance, and the lingering, gentle hum of the vines. This is not an ending that offers easy resolutions or comfortable closure. Instead, Shadows of the Wasteland leaves the audience with a profound sense of the character's arduous journey and the enduring, scarred spirit of life. The final sounds and visuals serve as a poignant reminder of their tragedy, but also of their remarkable resilience, a quiet testament to the unyielding will to exist, echoing in the mystical pulse of a prehistoric world.